This is Ryan Sanders. He's a resident of Erie County, Pennsylvania, a proud member of the Sheet Metal Workers Union and president of the local arm of the AFL-CIO. He is also a swing voter. Sanders was profiled by the Philadelphia Inquirer today and says that while Kamala Harris is a better friend to Labor than Trump, he still doesn't feel like he really knows her or what she plans to do as president. Sanders says he'll probably make up his mind in the voting booth. Now, that echoes what I heard when I spoke to union members in Saginaw, Michigan, just last month.
I'm undecided because I just haven't seen enough of it yet. I need to pay closer attention and kind of do more independent research before I make my judgment.
The lukewarm feelings from rank-and-file union members are part of the problem that Democrats are facing right now in a race that could not be tighter. As Vox reports today, it remains the case that under Biden, Democrats have seen their poll numbers with union voters decline at the presidential level, even as the administration's support for organized labor's interests has increased. Joining me now to unpack all of this is Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, thank you so much for being here and helping me understand this phenomenon. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that Kamala Harris right now is on track to do worse among union households than Hillary Clinton did in 2016. And even Joe Biden, I believe, NBC News found Biden winning only 50% of voters from union households. Do you have a theory on why that support isn't stronger given everything that the Biden-Harris administration has done for unions?
Well, I think at a time, Alex, of massive income and wealth inequality, at a time when 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck, at a time when we have a broken and very expensive healthcare system, time when we're the only major country not to provide medical and family leave, at a time when we have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had. I think Democrats have not been strong enough in standing up and saying, look, we got a rigged economy. The rich are becoming much richer. You got 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half, while working people are struggling. And we Democrats, we're going to stand with the working people. And we're going to do the things that need to be done to improve lives for millions of people. What does that mean? It means raising the minimum wage to a living wage. And it's hard for me to understand why Kamala has not come out on that issue. It's important to point out how terrible Trump's labor record was. And is. This is a guy you may recall did a call with Elon Musk, and they were laughing about how it might be a good idea to fire workers who went on strike. This is Trump giving a speech and saying, as a private businessman, I hated to pay overtime. Millions of people's lives depend on time and a half for overtime. Trump boasts how he didn't want to pay overtime. He appointed an extremely right-wing anti-labor Secretary of Labor. We got to make that clear. But equally important, it is no great secret that for many, many years, Biden being the exception, by the way, Biden has been very, very strong on labor issues. But we have got to make it clear, and I speak as an independent who caucuses with the Democrats, which side we are on. And the side we are on has got to be taking on big money, standing up for working families.
And I hear what you say about the working class writ large, but the reality is that Joe Biden saved the Teamsters pension fund to the tune of $36 billion, which amounts to roughly $100,000 per pension. This is a man who walked the picket line in a way that no other American president in modern history has done. Joe Biden was still only getting 50% of union support. And it sort of begs the question, is it something else? Is it actually independent of Joe Biden's record? I'm going to just take Harris out of the equation here, given, Joe Biden was only getting 50% of their support. Is it education polarization?
Quite sure about that,
go ahead.
The polling that I have seen suggested that Kamala is not doing as well as Biden did. And I think among working class people, there was a lot of support for Biden. Not as much as I would like to see, but there was support because he has the strongest pro-labor record of any president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
I wonder, you talk about the contrast in these two tickets, right? All of the things Trump has said, Trump's record. And then you have the filings from this month about who is supporting Trump's candidacy. It's a group of billionaires. It's Dick Uihlein, who contributed nearly $50 million to a Trump supporting super PAC. Timothy Mellon, railroad magnate, $50 million. Elon Musk, we've talked about. Miriam Adelson, $95 million. How can there even be an argument that this campaign is not in the pocket of the ultra rich? I mean, they're literally funneling hundreds of millions of dollars.
The argument is, look, I can understand it. You're quite right. But, you know, for example, it would be appropriate to my mind for Kamala Harris to make that very point, that increasingly in America we have a political system. And by the way, yes, you're right. A small number of Republican billionaires are putting unbelievable amounts of money, but Democratic billionaires are funding the Democratic Party as well. And what we need is somebody to say, you know what, we cannot have an economy and a political system dominated by billionaires. And you know what I think? I think a lot of Republicans would say that's right, independents. Democrats would say that that's right. But I think most importantly, people are hurting. And they need to know that somebody is standing up and fighting for them. They're not stupid. They see the people on top doing phenomenally well. They see an enormous, unprecedented level of corporate greed. Who is standing up and fighting for them? And I think Kamala has got to be strong. Look, she's brought forth a number of very good ideas. Housing crisis, she wants to build 3 million units. Very important. Child expanding and extending the child tax credit so we deal with the horrific level of childhood poverty in America. Enormously important. Supporting the PRO Act. Enormously important. Expanding Medicare to cover home health care. Wow, that's a big, big deal. Hearing and vision. Enormously important. But you got to emotionally, not just bring forth those good ideas. You got to say, you know what? I am prepared to take on the big money interests. I am on your side. The next time there's a strike, like Joe Biden, I will be there on the picket line. I understand that you can't afford health care. I will be there. We are going to join the rest of the industrialized world. Maybe not tomorrow, but we will, to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child. But emotionally, I think working class people have got to say, hey, see that lady there? She's on my side. She's got my vote. Trump is out there. He has his enemies. You know, he is going after undocumented people. They are the cause of every problem in the history of America. Well, what is our explanation as to why 60% of people are struggling economically and living paycheck to paycheck? And we have to identify corporate greed and the massive level of income and wealth inequality we now see. Kamala does that. I think she's going to win a whole lot more working class people.
Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, thank you for your time, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.